Gregor Show with Jason Strudwick on Edmonton Sports Leader, TSN 1260.
.347 of the Sports Leader, TSN 1260. Jason Gregor, Jason Strudwick, Connor Halley with you as we go racing. Racing Report brought to you by CanTorque. Their newest tool addition, the mechanical and hydraulic flange spreaders. Powerful, durable, and user-friendly. Contact them today for a demonstration at CanTorque.com. Once again, Colin Livingston joins us. And Colin, the Pinty's NASCAR series schedule came out yesterday. There's going to be 11 races, 7 racetracks usually. And the most challenging part of the schedule is likely going to come in that last weekend of August.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've got our hands full. Going to be super challenging. The back-to-back, it's actually 3 races over 2 days. But the challenging part is we're going to be in 2 separate cities and 2 different styles of racing. So on the 28th of August, we go back to ICAR, built on the old Mirabel Airport. Great circuit. We have a lot of fun out there. Do a full road race there, pack everything up, head, basically 3.5 hours away to Chaudière, Quebec, to run on the little oval out there, which will mean 2 different cars. So, typically what we're able to do with, with our race teams is we can typically put 2 teams worth of stuff in one transporter or one hauler. But with the 2 different, you can't run an oval car on a road course and vice versa. I mean, it's technically possible, but the amount of work you got to do to switch them over is going to be crazy. So, and to make things worse, not only are we doing the 2 different styles of racing, 300 plus kilometers apart, but we have a double header at Chaudière on the Sunday. So, boys and girls possibly are they're going to have their hands full, but it's really in the dead middle of the season, and it's going to expose who's on their game and who isn't.
I don't think we ever asked you this before, but when the cars are in transit, whether it's 3 hours or 5 hours or over in a plane, is there much are the cars so sensitive that some of that jingling and jumping or bumping might kind of require some recalibrate on the other end of that trip?
Not really. The cars, I mean, I can really only speak for our team, but the cars get secured extremely well. The only thing that can potentially happen is if something shifts and a car gets hit with something. But our hauler driver, Ron Hall, and all the drivers in our Pinty series are really, really highly professional. It takes the entire team after the event. Everyone's moving the pit boxes, all of our equipment back in. Guys will help position everything, and then Ron always takes responsibility for strapping everything down. It becomes a really finely honed machine. It only takes about, I don't know, maybe an hour to get everything loaded up at the end of the event, but yeah, it's it's definitely going to be challenging. I mean, if I would have built the schedule, I would have probably done it a little bit differently, but NASCAR had their hands full with very short notice, trying to put as many different races in, the balance between road courses and ovals. We're going to miss the Toronto Indy again. Looking at the schedule, we're going to miss the race at Jukasa, or Yakuza, as you guys like to say, which is a real bummer that we're going to miss out on hanging out with our buddy Alex Nagy. They do such a great job out there, but hopefully now that vaccines are coming through and things are slowly getting back to what we remember as normal, hopefully we get back to these places next year.
CanTorque Racing Report with Colin Livingston. Colin, let's shift our gears, shift our view to the IndyCar. And, you sent over a video of an interesting situation with Romain Grosjean, where his brakes caught on fire, and we saw him try to play the fireman. And can you kind of take us through, in the video, it shows that, the on-track security or safety people were pretty quick to make sure Roman got out of there. Why is it that the racer is not allowed to look after his own car? Is it the threat of something poor happening to him, or like kind of take us through that whole scenario and why it played out that way and he wasn't able to look after his own car?
Yeah, well, I mean, to bring it back for people who don't, really follow motorsport, Grosjean was the guy that was almost killed last year in Formula One. His car hit the wall, was stuck. His fuel cell exploded, and he was actually engulfed in flames. And had he not, managed to extract himself the way he did, he made like 3 attempts, and it was the last attempt that he finally got out. I mean, he could have perished in the car. So, you would think the guy would be somewhat fire adverse at this point, but yeah, he was having an issue. He pulled the car over, noticed his brakes were on fire. It starts as smoke, and then it can get really bad. But he's on track, and he's looking around for the AMR safety crew. Ran over to the fence, signaled to the volunteer workers that, hey, I need a fire extinguisher. He starts running back, and as he's coming back, the safety crew got there, and they started, they held him back, saying like, listen, this is our job. You need to be safe. It's our responsibility to make sure that you're not in danger. But he's also in a fire suit, and it's a fairly exposed area. But yeah, it was, I mean, his determination and his forethought or his thought to protect his race car was awesome. I mean, I loved watching that. Not the destructive part where the car could have, been damaged, but when people think of some of these, higher end drivers, being spoiled or, multimillionaires or whatever, I mean, it's never really what you think it is, but he could have just as easily said, you know what, this isn't my problem, turned his back and walked away from his car on fire. But the more I see of this guy and the more coverage that he gets, the more I love this guy.
Colin Livingston joins us. And Colin, quickly to IndyCar. Unfortunately, some people might not have seen the IndyCar doesn't get a lot of coverage in Canada. The one race was on Saturday, was televised, but then Sunday they had nothing. But Will Power, who I know can be emotional, but man, he went off. And after watching the whole, I think he had a legit reason to be that frustrated with the race officials. Where did you come out on it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be brutally honest. I didn't get to see the last half of the race. I had another engagement, so I PVR'd the thing. But because of, there's the big accident to Rosenquist, and then there was a separate incident towards the end of the race that had 2 red flags. But the second red flag is what set Power off, is that, he was leading, he was dominating. But the IndyCar procedure is kind of strange. And I think if you say it out loud, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That, it was a super hot weekend in Detroit. It was very humid. And the cars were having a hard time staying cool, as were the drivers. During the second red flag, they pulled everyone to pit road. As Power was the leader, as he got there well before the last car, they wanted to get fans on the car to help cool the brakes and help cool the engine down. And IndyCar says, you can't touch anything, you can't do anything till the last car is on pit road, which doesn't make a lot of, in theory, it sounds pretty good, but it's really unfair because you're the guy that's leading, you're the first one on the scene. The guy who shows up, up to 2 minutes afterwards, he came off the track, had his car, had some air on it, and then they can slap the fans on. To make a car sit there and cook was really unfair. There was a follow-up to that story, though, that Penske actually released. They thought their ECU, their electronic control unit, had an issue. And what it turned out to be is there's a really specific sequence that you have to shut the car down in, and then a really specific sequence that you have to turn it back on. And they missed, either Will missed it or the team missed it. They weren't really specific about that, but it was the procedure that they missed, so that when they went to go fire the car back up, the computer basically puts it into a safety mode, and it won't let the car start because it thinks that there's something wrong, being that it wasn't shut down properly. So, it it highlighted and exposed an issue that that there is in these, you know, red flag procedures. You know, probably wouldn't have made a big difference in the end of things because they wouldn't have been able to get their car started anyway. But you know, now they're going to work on their shutdown procedure and just make sure that, you know, these things don't happen again.
One last one for you, Colin. Colin Livingston joined us in the CanTorque Racing Report. I know we've talked a lot of F1, but I want to talk Infinity Series and Kyle Busch. He's got 99 wins. He's 50 wins ahead of the next guy, Mark Martin, at 49. Like that's some real domination in the Xfinity Series. Like, why is he so much better than everyone else in that series?
You know, you can never win without good equipment, but I mean, you know, Kyle is just that good of a driver. Last year, he really struggled. And I'm going to say largely because the format changed. Like a typical race weekend, you get 1 or 2 practice sessions, you go into qualifying, then you get into the race. Last year, it was throw the car on track and you've got what you've got until your first pit stop. I think they worked a little bit on their program. But you know, Kyle is like, I mean, it's not that he's just got almost 100 wins in just the Xfinity Series. He's over 200 career wins between Cup, Xfinity, and Truck. You know, the big number was Richard Petty, and you know, he's got just a disgusting amount of wins that are, you know, really concentrated in the Cup Series, but a very different era. Yeah, the numbers that Kyle's put up are not going to be touched by a single driver for an awful long time. And I mean, the thing that's super cool, like all of these guys, the Kyles specifically, Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson, I mean, these guys just love racing. Kyle will get into cars during the middle of the week. He'll, you know, run truck. I mean, he would run Truck, Xfinity, and Cup every weekend if he was allowed to, but you know, the NASCAR rules really prohibit that. They only allow for Cup drivers to do a certain amount of Xfinity or truck races, so they've got to break that down. You know, Kyle Larson, you know, wins the $1 million on Sunday for the All-Star race, which is a silly concept because there's nothing really highlighted. It's just a different race that's got a big first place check. But Larson left on Sunday, and he's been dirt racing all week. And I think he's won 2 out of 3 races on dirt. Like, you know, there's really no money in the dirt stuff, but I mean, these guys just love racing and they'll get into anything if somebody's going to give them a car.
Colin, always good to catch up with it. Hey, karting's back. When are you guys racing?
We started last night. Yeah, we're going to be running every Wednesday now until about the first week in September. You know, mostly well behaved by everyone last night. Only minor incidents. One brake failure that wasn't related to me, so I wasn't happy to see it, but I was relieved that my equipment worked. And yeah, really good field. We had 21 carts out last night.
Wow! And if people are interested, they can email you, Colin at cart CAR or KARTCRG.ca. I know there's a lot of interest in the karting community right now. So if you're interested, Colin at kartcrg.ca. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Thanks a lot, guys.
So Colin Livingston.